Welcome, everybody, to another episode of I'll Read That, the show where your stories get heard. So, if you've been following my channel, you know that I read your stories. So, your unpublished works, your short stories, your poems, anything that you want to have a voice given to. So, I do cold reads, giving you an opportunity to hear your words through your audience's voice. So, if you have a story to tell, if you have something you want read, please submit it. I'd love to hear it. I'd love to read it, and I'd love to, expose you to another audience that possibly would enjoy your works, and also help you grow as a writer. So today we're going to be continuing with my story, my novel entitled Toby. Chapter 2: The First Friend. He woke the next morning to the sound of birds singing in the trees and the soft rustling of leaves in the breeze. For a moment he wasn't sure where he was. His eyes blinked open, adjusting to the morning light filtering through the park's branches, and he stretched his small body, feeling the stiffness in his legs from sleeping on the cold, hard ground. And then he remembered. The girl. Was it real? He strained to remember, his brow furrowing with the effort. The girl. The one with the warm hands and the gentle voice. He could almost feel her touch again, the way her fingers had softly stroked his back, and the soothing cadence of her voice that made him feel, just for a moment, like he mattered. But was it really her? Or had it all been some beautiful dream, something his weary mind had conjured to shield him from the harshness of the world around him? He sat up slowly, his ears twitching as he scanned the park. It looked so different now, in the early morning light. Empty and quiet, with only a few joggers on the path, and a man walking his dog far in the distance. There was no sign of her anywhere, no glimpse of the girl with the kind eyes and the comforting smile. His heart sank a little, a hollow feeling settling in his chest. Maybe he had imagined it. Maybe he had only dreamed of her, and the touch that he felt was so real, was nothing more than a wish. He shook his head, trying to shake off the doubt creeping into his mind. But the more he thought about it, the more uncertain he became. Wasn't it possible that his mind, starving for kindness, had created the memory of her to soothe him in his darkest hour? How many times had he dreamed of warmth, of food, of safety, only to wake and find himself alone and hungry again? His heart thudded heavily in his chest as he wrestled with the thought. It felt cruel. This possibility that the one moment of comfort he had experienced was just a trick of his imagination, a fleeting mirage. He glanced around again, his gaze darting from one side of the park to the other, searching for any signs that could prove it had been real. His eyes were desperate, scanning for a flash of her dark hair, a glimpse of the bright coat she had worn. But there was nothing, just the ordinary morning activities of strangers who passed by without a second glance. A wave of uncertainty crashed over him, and he lowered his head, feeling a pang of disappointment, almost as if his heart were being squeezed tight. Had he dreamed it? Had he simply wished so hard for someone to care that his mind had created her out of thin air? He whimpered softly, feeling the weight of his loneliness settle back over him, like a heavy blanket. But then, another thought nudged its way forward, quieter, but insistent. He remembered the sandwich, the taste of it, the way it had filled his aching belly, the way it had felt so real, so substantial. Dreams couldn't feed you, could they? Dreams couldn't make your stomach stop hurting, even for a little while. His nose twitched at the memory, and he sniffed the air as if hoping to catch even the faintest scent of her, anything to prove that she had been there. But the air was filled with the smell of damp grass, fresh morning dew, and distant exhaust from the city streets. No trace of her. Nothing to hold on to. Still, he couldn't shake the feeling, deep in his heart, that she had been real, that she had seen him, touched him, fed him, that maybe, just maybe, she would come back. But then he spotted something on the grass beside him, a small piece of paper, folded carefully. He sniffed it, catching a faint scent of her. The girl! His tail began to wag as he nudged the paper open with his nose. There, in large, careful letters, was a message. Wait here, little friend. I'll be back soon. Lily. Lily! His tail wagged a bit faster at the name. He didn't know what to expect, but the thought that someone might be coming back for him, that someone had called him friend, made his heart feel a little lighter. He settled back down on the grass, his eyes scanning the park entrance, watching and waiting. Every few moments he would glance back at the note as if to reassure himself that it was still there, that he hadn't imagined it. Minutes felt like hours as he sat there, his little heart filled with a mix of hope and fear. What if she didn't come back? What if she had only meant to comfort him for one night? He shook his head, trying to banish the negative thoughts. No, she had left a note. She had promised to return. The morning stretched on, and he grew restless. His stomach rumbled again, reminding him of how little he had eaten. But he pushed the hunger aside. He didn't dare leave, not even for a moment. He had found a spark of kindness, and he wasn't about to let it slip away. After Lily left the park, she felt a strange, heavy sensation settle in her chest. As she walked home with her parents, their voices seemed to drift away, a distant hum against the sound of her own thoughts. She could still feel the softness of the puppy's fur under her fingertips, the way he had trembled at first but then relaxed into her touch, his tiny body leaning in as if he had been waiting forever for someone to care. She glanced back over her shoulder more than once, half expecting to see him following, but of course, he wasn't there. He was still alone under the tree, in the growing shadows of the park. That night Lily lay in bed, staring up at the ceiling, unable to sleep. Her room was quiet, except for the soft rustle of the curtains and the occasional sound of a car passing by outside. But her mind was far from quiet. She kept replaying the moments in the park over and over, seeing the little puppy's eyes so full of fear and hope. She remembered how he had looked at her, hesitant, unsure, and then, just before she left, with a kind of silent pleading that tugged at her heart. What if he was still out there? The thought made her stomach twist. She had seen strays before, of course. There were always a few dogs wandering around the park or in the neighborhood. There was something different about this one. He seemed so small, so vulnerable. She imagined him curled up under the tree, shivering in the cold night, and the thought made her feel an ache deep inside, a sadness she couldn't quite put into words. Her parents had told her that sometimes it was best not to interfere, that strays often found their way back to where they belonged. But what if he didn't have anywhere to go? What if he was truly alone, with no one to feed him or keep him warm? She hugged her pillow tightly, wishing she could have brought him home, but she knew her parents wouldn't have allowed it, not without knowing more about him, at least. Still, she couldn't shake the image of him from her mind. The next day at school, it was impossible for her to concentrate. Her teachers' voices seemed to blur together, and she found herself staring out the window, wondering if he was still in the park, waiting for her. During lunch, she pushed her food around on her plate, barely eating, thinking instead of the small, hungry puppy and how he had gobbled up the piece of sandwich she had given him. She wondered if she had found anything else to eat. She wondered if he had found anything else to eat. Had anyone else stopped to help him? Or was he still sitting there, lonely and scared, hoping for another bite, another bit of kindness? Her friends noticed she was quieter than usual. They asked if she was okay, and she just nodded, giving them a small smile. But her mind was a million miles away. Every few minutes she glanced at the clock, willing the hands to move faster so that school would end, so she could rush back to the park and see if he was still there. She wondered if he had stayed in the same spot or if he had moved on, searching for food or shelter. The thought of him wandering around lost and confused made her chest tighten. She couldn't bear the idea of him out there, fending for himself. When the final bell rang, she grabbed her backpack and practically ran out the door, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and anticipation. She knew her parents wouldn't be thrilled with her running off on her own, but she didn't care. She had to know if he was still there. She had to see him again to make sure he was safe. The day had felt like an eternity, and now, finally, she was free to return to the park to him. All through the walk, her thoughts swirled with the possibilities. Maybe he would still be there, waiting under the same tree, his little tail wagging as she approached. Maybe he would recognize her, come running up with that hopeful look in his eyes, or maybe he would be gone, just another stray passing through, disappearing as quickly as he had appeared. The idea filled her with a kind of sadness she hadn't expected, a deep worry that surprised even her. As she turned the corner, the park came into view, and she quickened her pace, her eyes scanning the area, searching for any sign of the little puppy. She didn't know why she felt so connected to him, why she couldn't stop thinking about him, but she knew one thing for sure. She hoped, with all her heart, that he was still there, that he hadn't given up on her, just as she hadn't given up on him. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, he heard a familiar voice calling out, "Hey, little puppy, are you still here?" His ears perked up, and he sprang to his feet, his tail wagging furiously. He turned toward the sound, and there she was, Lily, running across the park with a smile on her face and a small backpack bouncing on her shoulders. He barked a happy, excited yip and raced toward her, his paws barely touching the ground. Lily laughed as he reached her, dropping to her knees to greet him. "There you are," she said, her voice full of joy. "I told you I'd be back." She pulled something out of her backpack, a small plastic container. He sniffed eagerly as she opened it, revealing a few pieces of chicken. "Here," she said, offering a piece to him. "I brought you dinner." He didn't need any more encouragement. He gobbled up the chicken, his tail wagging so hard that his whole body wiggled. Lily giggled, watching him eat and stroking his fur gently. "You're a hungry little guy, aren't you?" she said softly. He looked up at her, his mouth full and his eyes wide with gratitude. He finished the chicken and licked her hand, his way of saying thank you. Lily smiled even wider and she patted his head. "You're welcome, little one. I'm glad I found you." As he nuzzled her hand, Lily tilted her head, studying him with curiosity. "You don't have a collar," she murmured, her fingers gently feeling around his neck. "No tags, no name. I wonder what your name is." His tail wagged slowly. He didn't know what she was saying, but he loved the sound of her voice. She seemed to be thinking for a moment, her brow furrowing in concentration. Then a light seemed to go on in her eyes. "How about Toby?" she asked, her voice tilting with excitement. "Do you like the name Toby?" He tilted his head, sensing her anticipation. His tail wagged a little faster as he heard the name she had spoken. "Toby," she repeated, more confident this time. "Yes, I think Toby suits you. You look like a Toby." When she said the name again, Toby barked softly, his tail wagging in agreement. He didn't know what the name meant, but he loved the way it sounded coming from her lips, warm and gentle, like a promise of something good. Lily clapped her hands together with delight. "Toby it is." "Toby it is, then," she declared, smiling wide. "You're Toby, my new little friend." Toby's heart swelled with joy for the first time. He had a name given by someone who cared, someone who wanted him to have an identity. He barked again, a happy, high-pitched sound that made Lily laugh. "Do you want to come home with me?" Lily asked, her voice filled with hope. "I'll talk to my mom tonight. At least I can give you a bath and some food. She might let you stay with us for a little while if you want." Toby didn't understand every word, but he could hear the kindness in her voice, the offer of something he had longed for: shelter, food, companionship. His tail wagged even harder, and he gave a little bark of agreement. "Great," Lily beamed. "Come on, Toby, let's go." She stood up and began to walk toward the park entrance, and Toby trotted beside her, his steps light and quick. He felt like he was floating, like he was in a dream. Lily's hand brushed against his head as they walked, and he leaned into her touch, savoring the warmth. As they left the park, Toby glanced back one last time at the place he had spent the night, where he had felt so alone and scared. It seemed different now, less frightening, less cold. The grass glowed in the evening light, and the trees seemed to sway with a gentle breeze. He gave a soft bark as if saying goodbye to the old life he was leaving behind. Lily led him through the streets, past shops and houses, until they reached a small, cozy-looking home with a garden out front. The house was painted a cheerful yellow, with white shutters and a red door. Toby felt a flutter of excitement in his chest. Was this going to be his new home? Lily pushed open the gate, her heart pounding with excitement, and led the little puppy up the path to the front door. "Mom, I'm back," she called, her voice a mixture of nervousness and hope. She could hear footsteps from inside, and a moment later her mom appeared in the doorway. Her dark hair was pulled back into a ponytail just like Lily's, and her face was a warm, welcoming smile. But as her eyes fell on the scrappy, mud-covered puppy at Lily's feet, her expression shifted to one of surprise. "Lily, what? Who is this?" she asked, her eyebrows lifting in curiosity as she crouched down to get a closer look. The puppy, still a bit hesitant, sniffed the air, his ears twitching. Lily took a deep breath, her hands gently grazing the back of Toby's head. "Mom, this is Toby," she said, the name rolling off her tongue with a mix of affection and determination. "I found him in the park. He was alone, and he looked so scared. I thought maybe we could help him?" Her mom glanced back up at her, a soft smile tugging at her lips, but also a hint of hesitation in her eyes. "Lily, he looks like he's been through a lot," she said, reaching out to pat Toby's head gently. "He's very cute, but you know we can't just bring home every stray we find." Lily nodded, her face earnest. "I know, Mom, but just look at him. He needs a place to rest, to be safe, even if it's just for tonight. We could clean him up, take him to the vet, and see if he has a microchip or something. And if he doesn't, maybe he could stay with us until we find him a home." Her mom sighed softly, her hand lingering on Toby's back as she felt his thin, bony frame beneath the fur. Toby looked up at her with wide, hopeful eyes, as if sensing that this was a moment that could change everything. Lily seized the opportunity, sensing a crack in her mom's resolve. "Please, Mom," Lily pleaded, her voice gentle but firm. "He's not just any stray. I think he's special. He needs us. Just look at him. He's trying so hard to be brave." Her mom looked at the puppy again, and Toby, almost as if he understood, sat up a little straighter, his tail giving a cautious wag. She couldn't help but smile at his effort, despite the grime and the scrappiness. Okay, she finally said, her voice softening. He can stay for tonight, but we'll see about getting him checked out in the morning. But Lily, no promises. We have to make sure it's the right decision for all of us. Lily's face lit up with joy and she hugged her mom quickly before crouching down to scoop Toby into her arms. Thank you, Mom. I promise he won't be any trouble. Right, Toby? She looked down at the puppy who licked her hand as if to seal the deal. Toby wagged his tail shyly, unsure of what to make of this new person. The woman reached out a hand and Toby sniffed it cautiously. Her scent was warm like soap and something sweet, and he decided she was safe. He took a step closer, letting her pet his head. He seems sweet, Lily's mom said with a smile. But he's a bit dirty. How about we give him a bath first? Lily nodded enthusiastically. Yes! Come on, Toby. Let's get you all cleaned up. Toby wasn't sure what a bath was, but he followed Lily inside, his paws clicking on the wooden floor. She led him to a small bathroom where a tub was filling with warm, soapy water. He hesitated at the edge, unsure about getting wet, but Lily was there, her voice calm and encouraging. It's okay, Toby, she said, lifting him gently and placing him in the water. It's just a bath. You'll feel much better after, I promise. The water was warm against his fur, and Lily's hands were gentle as she washed him, scrubbing away all the dirt and grime. Toby was nervous at first, but Lily's soft voice and careful touch reassured him. He started to relax, closing his eyes and letting the warm water soothe his tired muscles. Lily laughed softly as she rinsed him off. You're such a good boy, Toby, she said, her voice filled with affection. You're going to be so clean and handsome, a distinguished gentleman. After the bath, Lily wrapped him in a soft towel and dried him off. Toby shook himself, sending water droplets flying, and Lily giggled, wrapping him tighter in the towel. There you go, she said, rubbing his fur dry. All nice and clean. Toby felt lighter, cleaner than he had in weeks. His fur was fluffy and soft again, and he felt a new sense of comfort he had almost forgotten. Lily took him back outside and set him down in the garden. Go explore, she said with a smile. Toby sniffed around the garden, his nose twitching with curiosity. There were flowers of all colors, a small patch of grass, and a tiny pond with fish that darted back and forth. It was the most beautiful place he had ever seen. He wagged his tail, feeling the sun warm his back, and looked back at Lily, who watched him with a grin. He felt something he hadn't felt in a long time, a sense of belonging. Toby trotted over to her, his tail wagging in gratitude. He nuzzled her hand and she laughed again, kneeling down to hug him. I'm so glad you're here, Toby, she whispered. I think we're going to be great friends. And in that moment, Toby knew he had found his first real friend, a friend who saw him, cared for him, and even gave him a name. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, casting a warm glow over the little yellow house, Toby lay down in the soft grass beside Lily, feeling a sense of peace and happiness he had never known before. For the first time in his life, Toby wasn't alone in the world. He had a name, a friend, and a home, a place where he was wanted, a place where he belonged. And as Lily's fingers gently scratched behind his ears, he let out a contented sigh, closing his eyes and drifting off to sleep, knowing that this was just the beginning of his new adventure. The kitchen was filled with the aroma of a hearty family dinner, as Lily, her mom, and her dad settled around the table. Toby, having been carefully cleaned and given a cozy bed in the corner of the kitchen, was curled up contentedly, his eyes half closed but alert to the sounds and scents around him. Lily's mom had prepared a comforting meal of spaghetti and meatballs, and the warm, inviting smells made the evening feel even cozier. Lily's dad, a tall man with a kind face and gentle eyes, looked across the table at his daughter with a smile. His dark hair was streaked with silver, and his laughter lines deepened as he spoke. So, Lily, tell us more about Toby. How did you find him, and what made you decide to bring him home? Lily took a deep breath, her eyes shining with excitement. He was just sitting alone under a tree in the park. He looked so scared and hungry. When I went over to him, he was so gentle and didn't bark or snap. It was like he was just waiting for someone to come by. I couldn't leave him there. Her mom, stirring the pasta sauce, glanced over with a smile that matched the warmth in her voice. It sounds like you really made a connection with him. I'm glad you brought him home, Lily. He seems like he's been through a lot, but he's also so sweet. Lily nodded vigorously. Yes, and he was so brave. I think he's really special. I hope we can help him get healthy and maybe even find him a permanent home if he needs one. But for now, it feels good to know he's safe and comfortable. Her dad served up the plates of spaghetti, the steam rising from the pasta and filling the room with an even more inviting aroma. Well, we're certainly happy to help. It's been a while since we've had a pet around, and it'll be nice to have a little extra company. Plus, it'll be great for Lily. Toby will have a chance to be part of the family. Lily's mom nodded in agreement as she passed around the garlic bread. We'll take it one step at a time. We'll make sure Toby gets checked out by the vet tomorrow, and then we can see if there's anything else he needs. It'll be a good experience for all of us. They sat down to eat, and the conversation flowed easily, filled with laughter and the clinking of silverware. Lily's dad raised his glass in a toast. To Toby, our newest family member. May he bring us much joy. May he bring us as much joy as we can bring him. Lily's mom added with a grin. And to Lily for having such a big heart and bringing Toby into our lives. It's going to be an exciting journey. Toby, from his spot on his bed, watched the family with bright, hopeful eyes. The sound of their voices, the warmth of their smiles, and the gentle way they spoke about him made him feel a sense of belonging he hadn't known for a long time. He lay comfortably, his tail wagging slowly, absorbed in the happiness that filled the room. After dinner, Lily's parents moved to the living room, settling into their chairs with mugs of tea. Lily joined them, sitting on the floor near Toby, gently stroking his fur. Her dad put a comforting arm around her shoulders. You did a good thing today, Lily. It's not always easy to take in a stray, but you listened to your heart, and now Toby's getting a chance to be cared for and loved. Lily smiled up at him, feeling a deep sense of contentment. I just knew he needed us, and I really believed he's going to be okay. I can't wait to see how he adjusts and maybe even help him find a forever home if that's what's best for him. Her mom reached over, squeezing her hand. We're all in this together. We'll support Toby, and we'll make sure he has everything he needs. It's wonderful to see you so passionate and caring. It reminds me of when you were little, always wanting to help animals. As the evening wore on, Lily's parents continued to talk about plans for Toby, discussing the vet visit and how they could best support his transition into their home. Their voices were filled with warmth and optimism, reflecting their gentle and nurturing nature. Lily felt a profound sense of gratitude for her family's support, that they had welcomed Toby with open arms, and their positivity about the situation reassured her. She knew that with their love and care, Toby had found a place where he could heal and thrive. As the night grew darker and the soft hum of conversation continued, Toby lay peacefully in his bed, surrounded by the gentle sounds of his new family. For the first time in a long while, he felt truly safe and loved. He was no longer just a stray with no place to go. He was part of a family that cared deeply about him, and he could feel the promise of a brighter future in every affectionate touch and kind word. And so, with a sense of calm and belonging, Toby drifted off to sleep, content in the knowledge that he had found his way to a place where he was cherished and valued. The beginning of his new adventure was off to a hopeful start, and he eagerly looked forward to the future with his new family. And that is the end of chapter 2. Thank you so much for listening to chapter 2 of my novel, Toby. I really appreciate it. Please take some time out of your busy schedules, if you can, to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. Your comments are really crucial and beneficial to writers out there as well as myself to help grow and make our craft and our art better over time. As always, if you have something that you want read, a book, a novel, a short story, a poem, please submit it. Allow me to read it for you, a cold read for you to help you understand your audience and understand, the readers in front of you, and give your story and your characters a voice. So as always, if you have something that you want read, I'll read it. Thanks again.
I'll read that, a story to be told.